In ye old-timey days, they predicted that in the future, we'd all live in giant gold zeppelins. Vacuums would be nuclear-powered, and that the internet would explode in 1996. Obviously, none of these things happened. At least I think they didn't. But that's not stopped people trying to pull a know-nothing Nostradamus and doing the same thing today. However, there are some weird predictions which might actually come true. So let's take a look at some of them in our list of the 7 strangest predicted technologies. Number 7. Sweaty robots. When humans get too hot from using our big, strong muscles, our bodies respond by sweating water, and when this water evaporates, we cool down. But when robots or machines overheat, they have to rely on bulky fans and heat sinks. At least, they used to. Meet Kengoro, the robot, a 1.7 meter tall, 56 kilo musculoskeletal humanoid created by researchers from the University of Tokyo. Kengoro is rammed with circuit boards, motors, and all sorts of other fancy robot jiggers. But the fanciest part of Kengoro is actually located inside his metal robot bones. Kengoro's skeletal structure acts as a coolant delivery system, which allows water to seep out through its permeable frame and spread cooling liquid around its motors. This revolutionary method of cooling machinery could bring about all sorts of amazing possibilities, not least of which an entire range of roll-on deodorants for the self-conscious urban robot who wants to work hard and smell fresh all day, every day. In at 6, a new way of learning. In recent years, there's been a notable decline in the effectiveness of traditional teaching methods. Because while our ability to pay our bills, move around, and enjoy leisure time has become enhanced by responsive and engaging technologies, education has lagged behind. As schools and colleges still rely on the tried and trusted method of planting your face in a textbook and hoping the important parts get stuck in your brain. But one prediction from a panel of experts convened by Futurist magazine claims that, in the near future, learning will become a more social activity, perhaps even game-based, as educators begin to realize how much knowledge a student can absorb when they are truly engaged and less afraid of failure. Or if you believe the prediction of MIT's Nicholas Negroponte, we'll just start swallowing knowledge pills which transmit new languages and ideas to our brains via the bloodstream. This may sound a little crazy, but Negroponte is the guy who set up a Google Street View style truck in the 1970s, and in 1995 proclaimed we'd replace physical books and newspapers with digital versions viewed on portable screens. So he may be worth listening to. At number 5, giant robot earthworms. Mobile phones, magazines, clothing. What do they all have in common? The answer is that many of us throw these things away without so much as a second thought, but they're also completely recyclable. However, often it's either too much effort or simply not worth it to recycle or sell these things once they've outlived their usefulness. And if we're honest, there's not much likelihood of us getting any less lazy in the future. So instead, we may start employing giant robot earthworms to rifle through our trash and pick out useful materials. if we're to believe the folks at World Future Society. They believe that we'll use robotic versions of nature's dumpster divers to replicate what regular meat-based worms do, but on a much larger scale. The precious metals, plastics, petroleum, and fibers in our waste could be extracted and reused, with any organic matter digested to create high-quality topsoil. A similar ocean-based device called a waste shark was released into a Rotterdam port, and this machine can eat up to 500 kilos of plastic a day. So I guess that's it, folks. Dump whatever crap you want in the ocean or on the ground. It's fine. The future will clear it up. At 4, multiple personalities. Today, many people create a whole new life for themselves via games such as Second Life. But why stop at just one? Why not create several? And why not use them to do the things you hate? It is predicted that virtual assistants will become even more prevalent over the coming years, as will the possibility to customize these helpers and maybe form them into idealized versions of ourselves as we employ these fictional identities to interact with others in the ways we wish we could. Let's use an example to illustrate this. Has your boss responded to your request for time off with a firm nope? Then an avatar based on a more persuasive or aggressive version of your own personality could draft a more effective response while you kick back and pick out a sweet pair of swim shorts. Need to find a great present for your significant other, but you're all out of ideas? A bot with lateral thinking abilities could cross-reference your recent conversations and come up with something that looks believably thought-bought by you. And more complex issues, such as legal disputes, could be done on your behalf as well. As in June 2016, it was revealed that an artificially intelligent chatbot lawyer called Do Not Pay helped overturn 160,000 parking tickets in New York and London on behalf of human clients, saving them $4 million in total, without any of them having to interact once with another human being. Of course, this could lead to a world where more conversations are conducted by proxy, and something could go wrong with that. But this still sounds better than having to deal with that passive-aggressive Carol from HR. At 3, super salaried statisticians. What would you say is the most powerful job today? Politician? Hedge fund manager? Army general? Or the guy who can see your entire history of search engine queries, even the ones you made in private browsing? See? This last one may sound like a joke, but it's the one that's closest to the truth. Hal Varian, Google's chief economist, believes that data analysis roles such as statisticians and trend predictors will become the most powerful positions in the next 10 years as the world adapts to a new way of thinking based on big data gleaned from the Internet of Things. Just think of how many business decisions are based on small samples of flawed data today, and how many more are based on nothing more than the whims and thoughts of whoever's in charge. My name's Mr. CEO, and I have the biggest wang in the room. I say we diversify our company's ventures into umbrella hats and pork-based fashion wear. In the future, this won't happen, at least not to the same degree, because data will be king, and those who possess the ability to analyze this data, they'll be the kingmakers. Hal Varian calls these people the Datarati, which sounds a lot like the Illuminati, except more real and even more powerful. In it too, fat-shaming fridges. With big data and the Internet of Things beginning to permeate every facet of our lives, there exists the opportunity to either force or coerce human beings to better themselves. Some of you might be wearing devices right now, which track your activity levels in order to guilt trip you into walking instead of taking the bus to work. And this area of technology is expected to expand to include sensors which can monitor cholesterol, blood sugar levels, and how orange your pee is. But at the same time as this, we're also developing ever smarter appliances, such as refrigerators, which can detect what's inside and reorder things that are low on stock. And with the Internet of Things in place, these two devices will be able to communicate and potentially conspire against you for your own good. Did you get lazy and take a cab last night? No pudding for you. Does your health insurance premium require you to keep under a certain amount of calories per month? We've replaced your grocery order of frozen pizzas and Pop-Tarts with a delightful medley of quinoa-based horror. The future is coming, people. And while we may not be happy, we will all have spectacular abs. And at number 1, you live inside a transformer. Do you ever get bored of coming home to the same 4 walls every day? Is your home one of those annoying places that's super hot in the summer and frigidly cold in the winter? Well, if you lived in Michael Jansen's malleable autonomous retreat house, you'd have neither of these problems, because his conceptual home of the future is made of hinged and slotted panels which can be moved to create more shade, better insulation, or into a giant overbearing tower if you want to irritate your neighbors. Smart homes are a distinct possibility in the next decade or so, with DARPA even working on a dwelling whose walls and ceilings are grown out of organic materials and can repair themselves. Samsung's SmartThings department have also envisaged a home whose appearance can be changed via an app, with dividing structures comprised of a malleable skin. But based on what's happened with the Galaxy Note 7, I'd rather take my chances with wallpaper than live in a home that's going to burn my family to death if I leave it plugged in. So that's our list. Are you looking forward to being an irresponsible person who's able to throw trash everywhere and have a robot clean it up? I sure am. And if you want to see more weird future predictions, then take a look at our recent video on 6 life-changing future developments which we may see in our lifetime. Many towns and cities of the world claim to be haunted. Some are the site of strange chemical or nuclear accidents. But what makes a place truly weird is often just the behavior of the people who live there. Like the Egyptian town that just loves trash. The Brazilian village where women make the rules. And the secret American city rife with sexual promiscuity and illegal drugs, whose inhabitants are like no one else in the world. Intrigued? Me too! Let's take a look at the 7 strangest towns and cities on Earth. At number 7, the birthplace of champions. Who's your hometown local sporting hero? If you're from Akron, Ohio, it's probably Stephen Curry. If you were born in Madeira, Portugal, it'll be Cristiano Ronaldo. And if you're from Sandtown, South Africa, you'll probably worship, never mind. But if you were born in the central Ethiopian town of Bekoji, your sporting hero might be your neighbor, your best friend, or even yourself. Because from a population of just over 17,000 people, Bekoji has given birth to an astonishing 30 world championship winning runners, 16 Olympic gold medalists, and countless more international class athletes. This is a place where people live on less than $1.25 a day. Yet their athletes kick bare ass against those from developed countries with fancy pants facilities and expensive sneakers. So why is that? Bekoji athletes constantly test clean for doping, and their coach says their success is purely down to working hard and eating lots of barley. The local conditions of extreme temperatures and tough hilly landscapes probably play their part, but there's clearly something more to the people of Bekoji than meets the eye. And that's why right now, there's probably a dozen more kids sprinting across the hills in the heat of the desert, building themselves into the next generation of Ethiopian Olympians. At 6, the Kingdom of the Little People. The Kingdom of the Little People near the Chinese region of Kunming isn't an official town or village, but it may as well be, given that there are several hundred people living here, each of whom is less than 4 feet tall. Also known as the Dwarf Village, it operates as a theme park for people with dwarfism and was founded in 2009 by Chinese millionaire Chen Mingjing. All the park's employees live together in a nearby village specifically constructed for people of restricted growth. And with tourist numbers rising, the owner hopes one day to employ and home 1,000 little people here. Some organizations have criticized the park, but many of its inhabitants say living here gives them both a sense of identity and community, helping them feel less lonely, build self-esteem, and enjoy a stable income. So whilst this village may not produce any first-class ballers anytime soon, the Kingdom of the Little People at least provides refuge for those seeking to escape the cruel exploitation of their dwarfism. In at 5, the Hell Town. Hi there, and welcome to Centralia, literally the hottest place to live in Pennsylvania right now. Oh, we've got everything you'll ever need, including a church, a cemetery, a toxic underground coal mine fire that just won't quit. Oh, the kids just love it. Or at least they would, if any children lived here. Centralia was once a thriving town of over 1,000 people, but today, just 10 people remain, thanks to the outbreak of a huge fire that's raged in the coal mines below since 1962. Some speculate that the fire was started deliberately to allow a private company to obtain rights to minerals under the town, with the hope people would up and leave when everything started looking like the devil's wet dream. But whilst most of Centralia's inhabitants did the sensible thing and moved after the town was condemned in 1992, those who remain have been allowed to stay until they die, which could be sooner rather than later given their age and how dangerous this place is. At the moment, there's just one guy aged under 30, with the rest between 50 and 84 years old, and the fire is expected to outlast them all, with it estimated to burn for another 250 years. In at 4, the home of the Amazon women. Nueva de Cordio, Sounds like every man's wet dream, because for most of the year, this town of 600 people in southeastern Brazil is made up entirely of women. Their community was founded in 1891 by a woman driven out of her own town for adultery. But if you're thinking about heading over there to get your pelvis crushed with some of that sweet, sweet snoo-snoo, think again. Whilst many of the women here are single, they refuse to allow men to live here permanently for fear it will upset the delicate balance their town has achieved without them. The few women who are married only allow their husbands to visit on weekends. And in their place, the ladies take charge of every aspect of town life, from tending the fields and planning construction, through to religion and enforcement of law. Sorry, Beyonce, your feminist crown has been taken. Number 3, the Indian Utopia. Whenever you hear a story about a spiritual commune of people dedicated to financial equality, personal harmony, and human unity, it usually ends with the words, "There were no survivors." But far from being a cult, the experimental town of Oroville in India is still thriving to this day. Founded in 1968 by Mira Alfalza, also known as the Mother, this settlement in Tamil Nadu state contains over 2,000 people, each of whom abides by no rules, exchanges no money, and only works for the benefit of the community. Visitors are charged a guest fee, but those who wish to stay are allowed to regardless of race or religion. Only 50% of the town are ethnic Indians, with the rest comprised of 40 different nationalities, most of whom are European. Oroville's diversity is epitomized by its grand central temple called the Matrimandir, a spectacular golden dome open to public and locals for worshiping whoever they want. So is this place a prime example of how perfect humanity society could be if we all just got along? Yeah, I guess so. Aside from the allegation that Oroville has been accused of harboring pedophiles. Damn it, humanity, we were so close. In it too, Garbage City. If Captain Planet was a real guy, and I pray every day that he is, he'd probably build his lair in the city of Mansiat Nasser, Egypt, because this place just loves its some recycling. One whole district is nicknamed Garbage City, because it's where the nearby city of Cairo sends all its trash to be dumped. And not in a landfill site either, but on the streets, on its parks, and the doorsteps of the people who live there. But instead of complaining about it, the inhabitants of Mansiat Nasser decided to base their entire economy on recycling the capital city's junk. Many families specialize in collecting one specific thing, such as glass or electronics, and these items end up being recycled into products that are later sold by the city's industries. With feral pigs to fight for the trash, and with no running water or electricity, life in Mansiat Nasser is pretty tough. But these hard-working people seem to be making the best of it. And if you've ever wondered where Oscar the Grouch takes his vacations, now you know. And at number 1, The Villages. On the surface, Florida's The Villages sounds like a pretty exciting and dangerous place to live. Drug use is rampant. Bar fights occur almost every day, and there are 10 women for every 9 men living here. But before you buy a plane ticket, there's one thing you should know. This is a retirement city, and the old people who live here are pretty dang nasty. The Villages is home to over 150,000 people whose average age is 66 years old. And with a few small exceptions, they don't allow anyone under 19 to live here permanently. It is required that 80% of all homes have someone 55 or older residing within them. Yet despite these restrictions, The Villages was actually America's fastest growing city for 2 years until 2014. Because of its status as a gated community, there's only ever been one murder in its history. But that doesn't mean it's a peaceful place by any means. The old folks here frequently engage in fights. They've been caught drunk driving and making out in golf carts. There's been a huge rise in sexually transmitted diseases, and the city is also gripped by a huge black market trade in Viagra. These are our grandparents, people. This is what they're doing when they pretend they're playing chess in the park. But hey, if you think this is bad, just imagine what our generation's going to get up to when we retire. So that's our list. If you're not too grossed out by the idea of old geezers getting high and horny, why not check out your own future in our recent video on 7 ways the human race might develop?
I like to use this paint knife when I'm doing threads and stuff. Gives it a nice texture. Let me see if I can